So the next question, this is more on a tactical side of things. What does the ideal church budget look like? Is there one? What would be some red flags to look for in a church budget?
What a great question. I actually do a talk for pastors on having a kingdom-focused budget, church budget, and I use that kingdom as an acrostic to kind of lay out the different areas of it. I'm weird. I admit I enjoy church budgets. I geek out on church budgets. So
everybody just flashed back to their most recent church business meeting, and they're like,
Yeah. But I actually enjoy the budget. It's in fact, I'm the deacon of finance at my church, and Tyler, we both go to the same church. I actually love budget times to be able to go there and kind of crunch the numbers and make it all work. So the answer, there is no such thing as an ideal church budget. Every church is its own living entity. It's got its own pieces and dynamics. It's got its own priorities. So though some should be similar, because we're told to reach people, disciple people, see lives change and transform. That's where a large portion of our resources should go toward. But when you start thinking about churches like, Tyler, the church you and I are part of, we were able to merge with another church that was dying, and they had, I think, about 11 to 13 people that were left, and they were what year was that church built?
Oh, 1850 something.
Yeah, that's what I thought it was, 1850 something. So we're in an 1850s country church, stone originally. Now they put plaster on the outside building. And when you have a church that has its own property, not all churches do, but when you have a church that has its own property, what the challenges can be is, especially when you have a church that is as old as ours, there's a lot of maintenance, upkeep, and care. You got a lot of work to do. So there you can be pouring a lot of the resources for maintenance, upkeeps, repairs. The facility management could be greater. If you have a bigger facility, your care and maintenance for cleaning and just inspections and other things will be more extensive. And the problem is that since the pandemic, the facility costs have not gone down. In fact, they've astronomically gone up. And not even just that, but I'll even say I just had a meeting just last week with the insurance person for our church, and just seeing the cost of insurance is going up. And it's just because of the nature of the insurance world and how they're dealing with things right now. So these facilities are costing more. And you need to be careful. Actually, I think as I process the various costs that are involved, I do know of a church that actually had to recently get themselves out of their building because they could not sustain themselves in that building anymore. And another church actually came alongside and purchased that building. And now they have that building. They're going to build a ministry that's there. But that other church is still going to be alive. It's still going to serve, but they're going to pick another location as a rental location that they're going to have, so they don't have the costly overhead of the facility that they just had. So I think it's important to kind of process that. You got to be careful where you're putting your money and where things are at. And if it's sustainable to be able to handle those things, by all means, you want to do that.
So it seems like context matters depending on where you're at and where you're in the life stage of your church.
That's a good point.
Well, another question I have for you within this question, how much of the church budget, you think of the pie, how much of that pie should be staffing?
Oh, my. You know, I get that question often, and that's when I do budget reviews. In fact, I offer that to many churches that we do seminars at, and a lot of churches take me up on that. Years ago, pre-pandemic, right around between 35 and 40-ish, 45-ish would be a ceiling, would be what you would spend on church staffing.
Like 35 to 45%?
Percent of the entire income would go toward that. I'd like to say that back pre-pandemic, a healthy number was right around 38 to 40%. And if you could get it down to 35, that would be a big win. Post-pandemic, what I'm seeing is right around the 50-ish, 55-ish. It's costing more because it costs more to live. You want to make sure you pay your pastor and pay them a very good salary. So I'm seeing a creep above that 50 percentile. Now, I'm going to throw a exception in there. So if there is a church, and I'll call it a startup church, and they're just now launching and getting going, like Tyler, you and I have been part of our church since its inception. It's only, maybe 5-6 years old, give or take-ish. We have always had our church budget, that slice of the pie for staffing, has always been above 60%. I used to tell my pastor, our pastor, Tyler, I used to tell him often, it's not sustainable. It's not sustainable. We're going to have to adjust things down the road. And I remember one time he and I sat down and he said, I get that. I know that. I understand that. But he had to share with me either first or again, the model that we have is we will always, always, always have a high staffing figure. Okay, Pastor, why? Well, our goal is to always have an additional pastor on staff so that when we grow big enough, we're going to kick that person out of the nest of our local congregation, send some people with them, and start another congregation. Mm-hmm. Oh, I love that model. Yeah. I love that model. But what we're doing is we're sacrificing other things within our pie to say we're going to add that additional staff member. So our staffing is constantly going to be high, but it's part of the DNA. It's part of our goal for today and tomorrow for our church. So again, you may look at your church budget and say, why are we spending 60%? Well, maybe you don't have the right answer. Like I didn't right away, but I have now, and I've bought in, and I believe because we are getting ready to start a second church within this year. So where that one person's going to be kicked out of the nest, boom, go, and we're going to be able to take care of things. So very good processing when it comes to that as you look at that. One other thing I want to jump in to consider when it comes to church budgeting, you got to bring into the idea of what kind of camps, schools, other things that are there. Does it have a counseling program? Our church has a counseling ministry that's part of it. That's going to be an additional cost that's there. Now, some of these things may have a revenue income coming in. And again, our counseling session, our counseling group within our church, it will have revenue coming in, but it is also set up as a not-profit organization. So we're going to be able to get some kickback from some of the monies we have put out to actually get that thing operational. So processing all that, there's so many variables that are there. I think that's important that we just kind of look at it. You got to get that bigger picture. But please, 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 don't just come in like guns a-blazing, and you're ready to take somebody down because of what you see on paper. You need to get the why behind it.
Yeah, context matters. And if you're interested in doing a church budget review, reach out to us through our website. Just go to contact us at the stewardologypodcast.com website. Just go to the contact us page and reach out, and we'd be happy to set something up for you. And if you're a pastor and that interests you, hey,
I love doing that.
Yeah,
because you know what? I believe that a church that has a good, healthy budget, no matter where it is, whether it's small budget or millions of dollars, I believe they can have greater kingdom impact if they have greater clarity on their budget.
Yeah, that's good.